Newsmakers, talking points. The big talking point is coming from the special session of Parliament that began today amidst a lot of speculation. Is it time to celebrate or introspect as Parliament prepares to move to an all-new building? That's going to be our big talking point. We'll be joined by India's oldest living parliamentarian. Dr. Karan Singh became an MP in 1967. That's right, all those years ago. He'll tell us the best and the worst moments of Parliament. But first, as always, it's time for the 9 headlines at 9. Crucial cabinet meeting concludes. Suspense over special session bills in Parliament still remains. Opposition questions why agenda not revealed. Prime Minister Modi claims historic decisions are going to be taken. After an emotional goodbye to the old Parliament building, special session to shift to a new Sansad tomorrow. Move comes on auspicious Ganesh Chaturthi. Encounter enters its 6th day in Jammu and Kashmir's Anantnag. Security forces carrying out DNA test of a terrorist whose charred body was recovered from the valley on Sunday. The killing of 2 security officers in less than 72 hours has jolted strife-torn state Manipur. Governor orders a probe into the killings. Chief Minister N. Biren Singh assures security to victims' family members. Trouble mounts for the BJP-AIDMK alliance in Tamil Nadu. AIDMK leader Jai Kumar declares there is no tie-up with the Saffron party, blames BJP TN chief Annamalai for the discord. Kaveri water wars boil over, another setback for the Karnataka government. Kaveri Water Management Authority orders state to release 5,000 cusecs of Kaveri water to Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu Governor Ravi hits out at the DMK, says jihadis want to eradicate Sanatan Dharma. Yoga Guru Ramdev says abusing Hinduism will fail in 2024. Another twist to the Adani Hindenburg saga. Petitioner alleges conflict of interest in Supreme Court appointed panel, urges the apex court to constitute a fresh committee. And the Indian squad for the upcoming ODI series ahead of the World Cup against Australia is announced. Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli rested for the first 2 ODIs. R. Ashwin included for the series. But the big story that we are breaking this Monday night, the cabinet meeting chaired by Prime Minister Modi has ended a short while ago, with the Prime Minister hinting at a historic decision that is set to be taken. Will women's quota become a reality is the big question that's being asked. A lot of speculation over that, but no confirmation amidst conflicting reports over whether women's reservation could be on the agenda. Joining me now, Aishwarya Paliwal joins me live. Aishwarya, a lot of speculation because here starts the special session of Parliament, 6:30 p.m. Prime Minister convenes a cabinet meeting, and earlier he had spoken of historic decisions to be taken, and people thought this could be women's reservation. What are you hearing in terms of what is likely over the next 48 hours?
Well, Rajdeep, one thing that I can tell you is that this is one very, very, tightly guarded secret. From what we understand, the cabinet briefing is over. The Prime Minister is now leaving. But yes, senior leaders are now inside the Parliament building. Some of them are having a meeting there. Some senior leaders, in fact, a group of them are also at JP Nadda's house. So definitely, we are seeing meetings galore. Everyone is now keenly looking at tomorrow morning because that's when we will exactly get to know what was discussed in the cabinet. Though, from what we are understanding at the moment, point of discussion and one thing that was clearly discussed was the women's reservation bill. One nation, one election is also something that was being, some of the leaders spoke about that also. But yes, what has got the stamp of the cabinet is something that we all are keenly watching. But it is one of the fiercely guarded secrets. That much I can tell you till about now. From what we understand, tomorrow is the day when we will get more clarity. But yes, something historic. Definitely, Rajdeep, that much I can tell you. Something historic is definitely in the works.
Okay, we'll wait and see what that slice of history is. As I said, women's reservation bill has gone through many ups and downs. But the Prime Minister can surprise you. When you think that it's women's reservation, don't be surprised if it's something quite different, is all I can say at the moment. We'll wait and see what that cabinet meeting eventually decides. Remember, because Parliament is on, any policy decisions have to be placed before Parliament. No cabinet briefing has taken place. Now, all of this is coming against the backdrop of the first day of a special session of Parliament that in a way marks the end of an old order and the start of a new. Because tomorrow our parliamentarians will shift from the old Parliament building to the new. Prime Minister Modi today bid farewell to the old building complex, praising many of his predecessors, including Jawaharlal Nehru, while citing iconic speeches of past prime ministers, also recounting the day when he entered the Parliament as a first-time MP. The opposition too had their moment. Tomorrow, the focus shifts to the new Parliament building. First, take a look at what happened in the old one last time.
नेहरू जी, शास्त्री जी, वहां से लेकर के अटल जी, मनमोहन सिंह जी तक एक बहुत बड़ी श्रृंखला जिसने इस सदन का नेतृत्व किया है और सदन के माध्यम से देश को दिशा दी है, देश को नए रंग रूप में ढालने के लिए उन्होंने परिश्रम किया है, पुरुषार्थ किया है। आज उन सबका गौरवगान करने का भी अवसर है। ये वो सदन है जहां पंडित जी को इसलिए भी याद किया, अनेक बातों के लिए याद किया जाएगा, लेकिन हम जरूर याद करेंगे इसी सदन में पंडित नेहरू का एट द स्ट्रोक ऑफ मिडनाइट की गूंज हम सबको प्रेरित करती रहेगी। इसी सदन में अटल जी ने कहा था, वो शब्द आज भी गूंज रहे हैं इस सदन में, सरकारें आएगी जाएगी, पार्टियां बनेगी बिगड़ेगी, लेकिन ये देश रहना चाहिए। अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी जी का सरकार भी हमने इसी सदन में देखी। सर्व शिक्षा अभियान देश में आज वो महत्वपूर्ण बन गया है। आदिवासी कार्यालय मंत्रालय अटल जी ने बनाया, नॉर्थ ईस्ट का मंत्रालय अटल जी ने बनाया, न्यूक्लियर टेस्ट भारत के सामर्थ्य का परिचायक बन गया। मैं पहली बार जब संसद का सदस्य बना और पहली बार एक सांसद के रूप में इस भवन में मैंने प्रवेश किया, तो सहज रूप से मैंने इस संसद भवन के डोर पक्ति पर अपना शीश झुका करके इस लोकतंत्र के मंदिर को श्रद्धा भाव से नमन करते हुए मैंने पैर रखा था। वो पल मेरे लिए भावनाओं से भरी हुई थी। भारत के लोकतंत्र की ताकत है, भारत के सामान्य मानवीय की लोकतंत्र के प्रति श्रद्धा का प्रतिबिंब है कि रेलवे प्लेटफॉर्म पर गुजारा करने वाला एक गरीब परिवार का बच्चा पार्लियामेंट पहुंच जाता है। मैंने कभी कल्पना तक नहीं की थी कि देश मुझे इतना सम्मान देगा, इतना आशीर्वाद देगा, इतना प्यार देगा। सोचा नहीं था अध्यक्ष जी। G20 की सफलता 140 करोड़ देशवासियों की है। ये भारत की सफलता है, किसी व्यक्ति की सफलता नहीं है, किसी दल की सफलता नहीं है। भारत के फेडरल स्ट्रक्चर ने, भारत की विविधता ने 60 स्थानों पर 200 से अधिक समिट और उसकी मेजबानी हिंदुस्तान के अलग अलग रंग रूप में देश की अलग अलग सरकारों ने बड़े आन बान शान से की। चंद्रयान 3 की सफलता न सिर्फ पूरा भारत, पूरा देश अभिभूत है और इसमें भारत के सामर्थ्य का एक नया रूप जो आधुनिकता से जुड़ा है, जो विज्ञान से जुड़ा है, जो टेक्नोलॉजी से जुड़ा है, जो 140 करोड़ देशवासियों के संकल्प की शक्ति से जुड़ा हुआ है।
महिला रिजर्वेशन का बिल आना चाहिए और महिलाओं को देना चाहिए जो ड्यू है। नेहरू जी के प्रधानमंत्री काल में पहली लोकसभा में केवल वो भी 5% सांसद महिलाएं थी, लेकिन 70 साल के बाद भी आज 14, 15, 10 के अंदर ही है। तो इसीलिए मैं आपसे गुजारिश करूंगा कि इस महिलाओं का जो बिल है इसको आप ये कर दीजिए। अटल जी ने अपने कार्यकाल में 21 बार बयान दिया 6 साल में। डॉक्टर मनमोहन सिंह जी ने 30 बार बयान दिया। केवल हमारे मौजूदा पीएम साहब ही ऐसे हैं जो सदन में 9 सालों में कस्टमरी बयानों को छोड़ के केवल 2 बार बोले। ये डेमोक्रेसी है साहब। अब इसको क्या कैसा सुधारते मैं आपको ही छोड़ देता हूँ।
So it's a good moment to step back and look at the state of our parliament. Is this an occasion to celebrate or introspect as parliament prepares to move from the old to the new? Now, first to look at the number of sittings, because I think that will reflect how parliament has changed. Lok Sabha, the first one, 1952 to 1957, Jawaharlal Nehru was India's Prime Minister. 677 sittings, that is more than 100 sittings per year, 125 sittings per year. Then you go to 1957 to 62, Nehru again Prime Minister, there were 581 sittings. Now turn to the most recent, under Prime Minister Modi, 2014 to 2019, the sittings came down to 331. In 2019 to today, there have been just 247 sittings. This includes, of course, the fact that we had the COVID year in 2020 when there were very few sittings of Parliament. The truth of the matter is, just look at how India has changed from the 50s and 60s when Parliament would meet regularly to today. Bills sent to committees in the 14th Lok Sabha from 2004 to 2009, 60% of the bills would go to these select committees. In the 15th, it was 71%. Manmohan Singh was Prime Minister. Under Prime Minister Modi, it's come down to 25% of the bills are sent for scrutiny and review. In the 17th Lok Sabha, it's gone even lower, 17.6%. Bills passed by both houses. In the first Lok Sabha, 333 bills were passed. In the second Lok Sabha, 327 bills were passed. In the third, 272 were passed. In the fourth, 216. In the fifth, 482, the highest ever. This was the emergency period, mind you. Sixth, 130. Seventh, 329. Eighth, 334. Ninth, 63. 10th, 277. 11th, 61. 12th, 56. 13th, 297. 14th, 248. 15th, 179. It's come down now to 140 in the previous Lok Sabha. Now it's 189. Either way, again, you're seeing fewer bills being passed now than ever before. Time spent on questions. Percentage of total working hours, 1952 to 57, 15%. 2004 to 2009, percentage of questions has come down to 11%. And it is now steadily declining. So working hours have also declined, as you can see there. Over time, Parliament simply time spent on questions is also being reduced. My first guest today is Dr. Karan Singh. He is the oldest living parliamentarian because he was in Parliament in 1967, 2 years after I was born. Welcome, Dr. Singh, to the show. Thank you very much for joining me. Tell me what it was like in those days as the country celebrates 75 years. If I may be prepared to, and moves to a new building tomorrow. Parliament celebrates 75 years, moves to a new building. Your thoughts, what does this Parliament mean for you? Tell us what it was like when you joined in 1967.
Well, let me tell you that before I joined, I used to fly down every year to listen to Jawaharlal ji's response to the foreign affairs debate. So I only watched those from the galleries, but that was my first introduction to Parliament. Then in 1967, I became a member of the 4th Lok Sabha. And at that time, there was a lot of talent in the opposition. After Panditji left, a whole new group of people came into the cabinet with Indira Gandhi. And none of them, I think, were really outstanding, eloquent parliamentarians. They were all very able people. Babu Jagjeevan Ram was there, Morarji Bhai, but you know, they weren't orators. But in the opposition, Hiren Mukherjee, he was my favorite speaker. He's brilliant, the way he spoke, the way he marshaled his facts and his language. He was also a Sanskritist, by the way. Then there was Indrajit Gupta was there, and the one who was speaker later, he was there. And then we had Madhulimai from the Socialist Party, very, very dangerous opposition person. वो बड़ा कष्ट देता था. He used to really give a lot of trouble. Then there was my dear friend Nath Pai, a brilliant speaker, really eloquent, and you know. So these were the sort of people we had then in the Lok Sabha.
Very interesting. All these names you are suggesting, most of them communist socialists. Hiren Mukherjee, Nath Pai, Madhu Limai, the great communist socialist orators in Parliament. You mentioned all these great names. How difficult for you was it to be a young government minister in those days, answering questions that were put in by all these opposition figures? Because that was the age of debate.
Well, of course, every minister, as you know, has to answer in the Lok Sabha only once a week and the Raj Sabha once a week. But it was difficult, but I always enjoyed doing it because I liked my portfolio, which was tourism and civil aviation, and I had a good grip over that. Although there were several incidents, I don't have to mention them here, but they were all very kind to me for some reason. Even Jyotirmoy Basu, he used to send me Mishti Dahi, if you please, from Calcutta. He was a very powerful man, sab usse darte the, but he was very fond of me. I think they all had a soft corner for me. Hirendra was very kind and very generous. तो मुझे तंग नहीं करते. तंग अगर मुझे किसी ने किया तो राज्यसभा में the socialist, the so-called young Turks, Chandrasekhar, Krishnakant and Mohan Dharia, they were very bitterly against me personally. So that was much more difficult than in the Lok Sabha.
If I may ask though, Dr. Singh, you saw Parliament in the 21st century, you saw it in the 20th. What's been the biggest difference between Parliament then and now?
First of all, this whole habit of going into the well of the House, which to my view is totally unparliamentarian. I mean, you cannot do that. You cannot disrupt Parliament, for God's sake. That's our highest body. This everybody rushing into the well of the House at the drop of a hat. I mean, this is something that was most undesirable and which never used to happen earlier. I mean, there were very strong opposition people, but they would never dream of rushing into the well of the House. So that's one great difference. And the second difference seems to me to be that the sort of structured debates that used to take place, those are not taking place now. There are sporadic debates, somebody speaks for a while. A good structured debate in Parliament, Rajdeep, is an excellent thing, whether in the Lok Sabha or in the Raj Sabha. Structured debate means there is a certain clear timing given to each party. They know they've got to speak to that extent, and the minister then gives a reply. Now, those structured debates are very important, number one. Number two, the committee system is absolutely central to our parliamentary function, because the real work is often done in the committees. The advantage there is there's no television, so Rajdeep isn't there. So the result is we can speak what we want to speak without fear of everybody listening in. So the committee system seems to have gradually evaporated, which is a great pity. And the third thing that I've noticed is disruption of the question hour. The question hour is sacred. In the House of Commons, for example, the question hour, because that is where the common MP who's not a minister gets a chance to ask a question and to ask supplementaries. So rushing into the well of the House, diminution of the committee system and disruption of question hour. These three are horrific developments in the 21st century.
Very well spoken, sir. Would I be right, though, in saying that the darkest hour of Parliament in the years that you were a member of Parliament was the emergency, 1975? And if I were to ask you also, what for you was the most glorious moment you saw in Parliament, what would that be?
Well, I'll tell you both. I was there for both. First of all, I agree with you that the emergency was a very, very dark chapter. And fundamental rights were suspended. No, I'm not going to go into that. Everybody is aware of what happened. Thousands of people were arrested and all. It was terrible. But the finest hour was Bangladesh. When the war was going on, people were waiting. Indira Gandhi very seldom showed any emotion. But that day she almost ran into the house. My seat used to come almost exactly behind her. She ran into the house almost and said, "Mr. Speaker, I have an announcement to make." House fell deathly silent. "Mr. Speaker, Dhaka is now the free capital of a free country." And the house exploded. You cannot imagine, Rajdeep, how much joy there was for us in the creation of Bangladesh. We were all involved in our own way. And I don't think now generations can realize what a victory that was. 15 days. Mahabharata took 18 days. Our troops did in 15 days. And the surrender of General Niazi with 72,000 troops and 90,000 kilometers of land. It was a tremendous moment. And that, I think, was the most glorious moment that I've come across.
You know, wonderful to hear you speak about that 1971. As you saw Parliament, of course, the tragedy of 75, the dark hour. But there were also some great speeches over the years. I remember personally Vajpayee ji's speech in 1996 during which he lost the confidence vote. Any speech that strikes out, any favorite speech? You've seen it all from Nehru to Prime Minister Modi. Any speech or Prime Minister who stands out?
Well, it's very difficult really to zero in on any particular speech. I know that Atalji spoke very well, and Narendra Bhai is a very great orator also, there's no doubt about that. No, I don't think I can remember a particular, I can remember, I'll tell you. There was a debate on privy purses, if you please, and I was a privy purse holder, and I was on the side of the government. So all the other princes looked upon me as a traitor. And I remember my speech. For some reason, I don't remember other people's speeches. I remember my speech on that occasion. And I remember my farewell speech in the Raj Sabha. These are memorable speeches for me. You may be very egoistic for me to remember my own speeches, but that is what I remember most of all.
What is the best thing, Dr. Singh, about being a member of Parliament, and what is the most difficult thing to be a member of Parliament?
Well, the best thing about being a member of Parliament is that you get to help the people in your constituency. And that 5 crores of rupees that we used to started getting to spend in our constituency or to take one village, adopt a village and so on, that is very, very useful. Because that was greatly appreciated and one kept in touch with the public all the time. So when you're an MP, you can't just sit in Delhi. You've got to keep in touch with the public. The difficult part is, of course, that you must behave yourself. You mustn't shout and scream. So that's not difficult for me. It's reasonably well disciplined. But for some people who are compulsive speakers, they find it very difficult not to speak.
One final question. If you had a message for today's generation of MPs or wannabe MPs, what would that be? As I said, you've been part of that great generation when we had those terrific socialist, communist, Jan Sangh, Congress speakers, debates of the 60s and 70s. What would your message be to today's parliamentarians?
You see, my message to parliamentarians is, haath jod ke, please do not disrupt Parliament. That is my one and only message. If you disrupt Parliament, apne pair pe kulhadi maar rahe ho. You're members of Parliament, for God's sake. How can you disrupt Parliament? That is, to my mind, the biggest request, very respectfully, which I would make to present parliamentarians. They may or may not appreciate it, but please do not disrupt the House. Let the House function. Speak as whatever you like. Speak very strongly. haul the government over the coals. Get every minister, get them down. But do not disrupt the House.
Very well spoken, Dr. Singh. Fine words. I hope parliamentarians are listening. Just in conclusion, do you ever remember running into the well of the House in all your long career over 50 years? Did you ever go into the well of the House?
No. Rajdeep, I wouldn't dream of going into the well of the House.
Okay.
Never.
Wonderful to talk to you, Dr. Singh. All those rich memories that you have, and I thank you so much for joining me there. You're there in Srinagar, and thanks very much for sharing us.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Rajdeep.
That was Dr. Karan Singh, the oldest living parliamentarian, 67. I don't know anyone who's been around who was a parliamentarian in 1962. But as Dr. Singh says, much has changed, unfortunately, for the worse. And that's why I want to turn to my talking point. Is this time to celebrate or introspect? Parliament role, is it getting diminished? How do you make Parliament more productive? Just some of the questions I'm going to raise. Trilochan Shastri is Chairman, Association for Democratic Reforms. They look at these issues closely. Syed Zafar Islam is BJP's spokesperson, former MP, and Ajoy Kumar is Congress spokesperson and former MP. Let me come to each of you for your comments. Why don't you start, Ajoy Kumar, first? Because the Congress, in a way, has been in Parliament in the Treasury benches for the longest time in these 75 years. Now you're in the opposition, and y'all are the ones who are accused of running into the well of the House. Karan Singh says he never ran into the well of the House in 50 years. He's saying, please don't disrupt Parliament. Don't disrupt question hour. Haath jod ke, he's saying.
Look, Rajdeep, I think the issue is the deterioration, and fundamentally, and I know it sounds political, but I don't think ever in the history of the Parliament we have had such a confrontational government. We had UPA 1, UPA 2. There were issues. There were, Mr. Jaitley did those famous sit-outs, and Sushma Swaraj defended it. But then also it was not so acrimonious. It was never that the journalists were not allowed in the central hall. So it's very combative for the first time. I mean, even before 2014, there were lots of, people rushing into the well and all. But there was a general bonhomie. Now, if I'm caught talking to Zafar Islam at the Central Hall, it would be dangerous for me, or it would be dangerous for Zafar Islam. That's for anybody to decide. But that's a different issue. So the basic issue is the level of discussion is gone. I'll just give you a couple of data.
No. Why rush into the well of the House? You're not answering my question. I concede that you need to hold the government to account. Is the only way to rush into the well of the House?
So let me ask you a question. When the business committee sits and decides what should be the agenda, look at the special session. Did you know the agenda? Did anybody know the agenda? And you're saying don't rush into the House, respect democracy, but I will beat you up, get into a boxing ring, I'll tie your shoelace, I'll tie your hands, and then you say be the gentleman like Dr. Karan Singh is saying. Did you know the agenda? Did anybody in India know the agenda except for those two people? And is that a special session should be conducted like this on 75 years of Indian democracy? So my question again is, you will push everyone to the wall and say don't rush to the well. My God. The government has got the responsibility to take the opposition, and we are ready to go not halfway, more than halfway. But the problem is this. I mean, can you imagine? You have a special session which you didn't know, I didn't know, nobody knew.
That's a good point. Let me take that point to Zafar Islam. Zafar Islam, you expect the opposition to quote-unquote behave itself, but the government's attitude to Parliament. Today, Mallikarjun Kharge said this has been the Prime Minister who has attended the fewest sittings of Parliament, given the fewest speeches over a period of time. And the special session is on, but we still don't know what is this mysterious historic agenda. You're keeping the opposition and even your own government ministers in the dark. So how does that further parliamentary democracy if at the last moment you're going to bring in something into the agenda in the next couple of days?
Well, Rajdeep, why they are speculating, I don't understand. Their job as a parliamentarian is not to speculate, but also the agenda which is known to them, they should prepare themselves for the debate on the floor of the Parliament. while the discretion lies with the government, that they have the discretion, if they want to introduce any bill, they can, because that constitution does give them flexibility to introduce any bill they feel like introducing to the parliament. But as far as the agenda has been made it very clear to these people, I think they should focus on the agenda which has been known to them, which has been shared with them.
No, but what
Having
if
said that, I heard Mr. Ajay Kumar,
Zafar bhai,
a former parliamentarian,
Zafar bhai, what if at the last moment something is brought in and you say, no, let's debate it at the last, we are inserting it, slipping it into the agenda tomorrow, day after, and we've got to debate it. Plus, as I showed, and I'll play those graphics again, this is the Lok Sabha with the fewest sittings, fewest questions asked, fewest bills being passed. I mean, somewhere surely that calls for introspection. Where is the celebration?
Well, if at all somebody has to introspect, it is the opposition bench, because as Dr. Karan was saying, that it is very unfortunate that the opposition bench, the only thing they want to disrupt the parliament. That is the only priority they have. They are not interested in any debate. They are not interested in any discussion on the floor of the parliament. What interests them is the disruption of the parliament, and somehow they should be seen on the television that they are disrupting the parliament.
But that's exactly, Zafar Islam bhai, with due regard, that's exactly what that's exactly what you did when you were in the opposition between 2009 and 2014 in particular. Arun Jaitley in fact said, obstruction is a legitimate parliamentary tactic.
See, dancing on in the veil, dancing on the table in front of the chair. Has Mr. Jaitley done that? Mr. Jaitley was always advocating of having a discussion, debate, and if the ruling party is not interested in debate, then you can resort to all this disrupting the parliament. But we are always ready for the discussion. It is the opposition bench who are not keen to discuss.
Okay.
We discuss everything in business advisory committee, and next morning they have to discuss all those issues on the floor of the parliament. But the moment you enter, the slogan starts. Then they will come to the wall. Then they will start shouting. And
so
eventually they will disrupt the parliament.
With due regard,
the House will
the
not
running
function.
of the parliament is the responsibility of the treasury benches. But a quick word from you, Ajay Kumar, and then I'll go to Dr. Shastri. Quick word, yes.
So, I just want to point out to Zafar ji, when I was in the parliament, the BJP was in opposition, and they were rushing into the well all the time, including Mr. Jaitley and Sushma Swaraji, and they were sending all their people down to the floor of to the well of the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. It's recorded. They can see umpteen number of
But because they did it, you don't have to do it. Remember the Telangana, when the Telangana statehood bill was passed, the lights were switched off. So you see, all of you combined have destroyed parliament one by one.
I'm not, one sec, Rajdeep. Let me complete. I'm not justifying. Okay, so first question. I hope the parliament, as a personal view, and I'm as a party view, that we want the parliament to run. But most important part is, this is the only parliament which is reduced to sending the bills to the standing committee. There's no study of any bill. The worst legislation possible in the world is being passed. The standing committee, 71% earlier, now 13%. What will generations of Indians pay the price for this arrogant government which refuses to study bills in great details, so that its implementation of that bill doesn't lead to disaster to the common man? And 71% earlier, now 13%. The Prime Minister has spoken in 9 years only twice, except vote on thanks. Only twice. Only twice in 9 years, except the vote of thanks.
Well, he spoke.
Motion of thanks to the President.
Yeah,
so my question is,
yes.
Yeah, only twice.
Yes.
So and Manmohan Singh ji spoke 30 times. Vajpayee ji spoke 21 times in 5 years. So my question is, what speeches Zafar ji comes and gives us this great eloquent bhashan of democracy is that and we love democracy.
Okay,
they do everything opposite.
Let me bring in Dr. Shastri, because we'll have these two views, extreme views. Dr. Shastri, do you sense, as someone who's looking closely through the Association of Democratic Reforms at Parliament, that this is a moment where Parliament needs restructuring? It doesn't need a new building. We need a new parliamentary culture.
You see, Rajdeep, you have raised a very important issue, and I am very happy to hear the views of both the Congress and the BJP honorable members of Parliament and those parties. But, I am going to speak as a citizen if I am allowed to do so. And as a citizen, I am going to go by the Parliament's own method of introducing a bill. Usually a bill is introduced in first hearing, second reading and third reading. And at any stage, it can be referred to a standing committee. The standing committee can take expert opinion, and after taking expert opinion, it can also ask general public for their opinion. And even in the second reading, there are 2 hearings. And after the third hearing, then the bill is passed. So, as a citizen, I want to ask a simple question. We have been independent from the British rule for 75 years, which is a jolly good thing. How many times has a special parliament session been held? And we hear, and we don't know as citizens, that perhaps something like 8 bills are going to be introduced and perhaps passed because the government is in majority. And what are those bills which are going to affect the citizens of the country? Nobody still knows. So why is this secrecy there? Why is there not a open discussion on how we are going to take this great country forward? And why is the public not informed? And why is this being done in such a hurry? This is something that is a matter of concern to ordinary citizens. So I will just stop, Rajdeep, at this point.
No, but what is, if you wanted a reform, Dr. Shastri, if you wanted one major reform, what would that be? To make Parliament more productive, what would that be?
I think that in a true democracy, any new legislation, the government certainly has a right to introduce a new bill, but it must be through wide consultation and through, asking for suggestions from the standing committee, from the opposition parties, from the public in general, and there must be a reasonable debate based on facts, not by rushing into the well. I am also in favor of not rushing into the well. Although, one can see all sides of the debate because both the BJP and the Congress over the years have been rushing into the well and both are defending their points. But that's, as a citizen, I think this is not what we want to do. So what reform, that is a basic question, Rajdeep, you are asking. The reform we would like is a parliamentary discussion on new bills which is based on facts, which is based on public discussion, which is based on the good of the country. The great fear is that every time a bill is introduced, there is a political agenda. There could be a political agenda behind it. When this secrecy is there, the secrecy about what are those 8 bills, the public of India don't know what are those 8 bills. When the secrecy is there, obviously the public will think that why is this not being told to us? What are those bills which are going to affect my day-to-day life? Why are we not informed about it? I think that is a matter of concern, and Parliament should follow all these procedures which are laid down in the parliamentary procedure. I mean, I'm just reading out from how a bill gets. This is from the Lok Sabha. This is the Lok Sabha procedure for introducing a bill. I would request that we follow those procedures and not get into tu mai Congress versus BJP.
I take your point, sir.
And just have.
I think you've given us one reform. At least keep the bills. I don't know how many citizens are looking closely at Parliament. That's my worry. Many citizens have also switched off Parliament, which is very worrying at times. I want a final question from you, the answer therefore from Zafar Islam. Just get rid of the secrecy. Let's have all party meetings before Parliament where these bills are, the agenda is shared in a more transparent manner. What's the problem? Remember how Article 370 was pushed through at the last moment in 2019? There needs to be meaningful debate. Even budgets of this country are being passed without debate, sir. Can that change, Zafar Bhai?
See, the mindset has to change. Like I just heard Dr. Ajay Kumar, that he said that in the Central Hall, if you talk to somebody from the BJP, there will be problem for him. In our party, there is no such mindset. In fact, we have been encouraged always to interact with every other parliamentarian from any other political parties, because the work you are doing, that should be known to them, and they will not disrupt the parliament. Unfortunately, their agenda is to disrupt the parliament, and sometimes it is purposely done it, and they have no intention of discussing.
So you're saying the secrecy is because the government. You're saying the secrecy is because the government fears otherwise the opposition will disrupt a bill, which is unfortunately reveals the lack of trust between the government and the opposition. Democracy is based on trust. You need the citizens to trust our MPs and our MPs to trust each other. That trust has gone, which is why I said today is a day for introspection, not necessarily celebration. I appreciate my guests joining me on my big talking point this evening. Let's turn from there to our big ground report, and it comes from Anantnag, where we've entered day 6 of that encounter with terrorists. Security forces carrying out DNA tests to confirm the identity of the terrorist whose body was recovered on Sunday. JNK LG Manoj Sinha has met the family of the martyred DSP Humayun Bhatt to express his condolences. Why is it taking so long to flush out the terrorists? That's our report from the ground.
The Anantnag encounter entered the 6th day on Monday. Two to three terrorists are still believed to be holed up in the forest of Kokarnag. After the charred body of a terrorist was retrieved from a hideout on Sunday, security forces are trying to confirm his identity. The security forces believe the body could be of terrorist Uzair Ahmed Khan, an alleged member of the Lashkar-e-Taiba. DNA test is being conducted to ascertain the terrorist identity. Meanwhile, Jammu and Kashmir Lieutenant Governor Manoj Sinha met the family of DSP Humayun Bhatt, who was killed in action during the Anantnag encounter. Expressing his condolences, he assured the family of all assistance and support from the administration. Earlier, the Lieutenant Governor had asserted that the deaths of the Indian braves will be avenged soon.
जवानों के लहू के एक कतरे का हिसाब पूरी तरह सूद समेत लिया जाएगा। आतंकी किसी संगठन के उनके सरपरस्तों को बड़ी कीमत चुकानी है। हर एक बहादुर जवान के पीछे पूरा देश खड़ा।
Security forces are in a final push to flush out all the terrorists involved in the attack that killed 3 soldiers and a police officer. With Kamaljit Sandhu and Ashraf Wani in Srinagar, Bureau Report, India Today.
Let's turn from JNK to our other ground report that comes from Manipur, that continues to simmer nearly 5 months after the violence broke out. Despite the deployment of additional security forces to maintain law and order, there is no respite from the violence. Remember, yesterday an Indian Army soldier who was on leave was abducted and later found dead, killed by his assassins. A few days ago, a sub-inspector was suspected to have been killed by a sniper when he was on duty in Churachandpur. Security forces are now caught right in the middle of the ethnic clashes. India Today's Indrajit Kundu has the report.
Manipur is embroiled in an ethnic conflict for months now. The killing of 2 security officers in less than 72 hours has jolted the strife-torn state. Sepoy Seto Thangthangkom, an Indian Army Jawan deployed at the Lemakong military station, was abducted from his own home in Imphal West. The soldier, who survived by his wife and 2 children, was on leave when he was abducted by unidentified gunmen at about 10 a.m. on Saturday. The sole eyewitness to the crime is the victim's 10-year-old son.
उसने गेट खोला था वो मैंने देखा था। क्या देखा था? मेरा पापा को ले जा दिया। कैसे देखा था आपने? मैंने दरवाजा मैं खड़े होकर देखा था। वो एक छोटा वाला गन में लेकर गया। उन लोग ने ब्लैक वाइट ग्रीन कलर में मिक्स में पहन कर आया। मिक्स में पहन के आया? हाँ, मास्क भी पहना।
There was no news of the sepoy comb till Sunday morning, when his body was recovered with a single bullet wound on the forehead.
They didn't find what is the truth, what is the right, and why they are killing my husband, until and unless without knowing that we will never take the dead body.
Last Wednesday, a Manipur police officer was shot dead, allegedly by a sniper. 35-year-old Sub-Inspector Onkomang Haukip died after unidentified miscreants opened fire in Churachandpur on Wednesday afternoon. Manipur governor has ordered a probe into the killings, and CM N. Biren Singh has assured security to members of Kom community as well as government jobs to the family of the slain officers. With Indrajit Kundu, Bureau Report, India Today.
Our thoughts with our brave army officers there. Up next is our Get Real India story, and it comes from Satara in Maharashtra. Gripped by communal violence last week, innocents have died yet again. We'll tell you more on the other side. You're watching the news today, the one show that does news without the noise.
आतंकी हमला हुआ, पूरे विश्व में यह आतंकी हमला एक इमारत पर नहीं था। ये मदर ऑफ डेमोक्रेसी एक प्रकार से हमारी जीवात्मा पर यह हमला था। ये देश उस घटना को कभी भूल नहीं सकता है, लेकिन आतंकियों से लड़ते लड़ते सदन को बचाने के लिए और हर सदस्य को बचाने के लिए जिन्होंने अपने सीने पर गोलियां झेली, आज मैं उनको भी नमन करता हूं।
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com.
Welcome back. Let's turn to tonight's Get Real India story, a story that goes beyond the headlines. Last week, a village in Satara district of Maharashtra saw religious hatred and intolerance rear its head. Nurul Hassan, a 31-year-old civil engineer, soon to be a father, was killed in a mob attack on a mosque. The violence was triggered by offensive messages shared on social media. This is not the first time in recent months that Maharashtra has found itself in the crosshairs of communal violence caused by social media messages. It's our ground report tonight.
The Shikalgar family is in mourning. They still can't believe Nurul Hassan is no more. The 30-year-old civil engineer died in an attack on a masjid in Pusesawali village on September 10th.
कुछ भी मालूम नहीं था कि वो नमाज को जाएगा और इस तरह से मामला आएगा। अचानक तौर पे हादसा हुआ है। कुछ लोग अचानक तौर पर पथराव करने लगे और मस्जिद में भी हुआ, उसका भी मालूम नहीं था।
The village in Satara district was tense ever since objectionable posts on Chhatrapati Shivaji and deities were shared on social media. The suspect, Adil Bagwan, was handed over to the police by the Muslim community. While there was tension, the family could never imagine a place of worship would be attacked.
ये है कि जब पोस्ट हुई थी, ये पोस्ट अभी की नहीं है, ये पोस्ट 15/8 की है, मतलब लास्ट मंथ की है ये पोस्ट। जो जिसने किया उसको अटक भी किया था। कभी तहकीकात करती पुलिस या गवर्नमेंट, तहकीकात करती कि ये पोस्ट किसने की है, ऐसा दिखाया गया है कि सब नॉर्मल है, सब नॉर्मल है।
Nurul Hassan, though a civil engineer, was out of work and had taken to dairy farming.
हमारा इकलौता बच्चा था वो, घर का देखने वाला। अब हम किसके सहारे जिएंगे? हमें देखने वाला कोई नहीं है।
Nurul had married Aisha Noor Hassan, an advocate, last year. She is pregnant now. The family is facing an uncertain future.
क्या हम तो मुर्दा हो चुके हैं। अभी हमें जीने में भी कुछ ज़्यादा ये नहीं लगता है। अभी वो किसने किया, क्या किया, वो पुलिस का काम है, सरकार का काम है कि भाई किसने किया है, उसको सच्चे मुजरिम को ढूंढकर उसको सज़ा वक्त पर ही दी जाती, तो ये मामला नहीं होता।
Over the last 2 weeks, there were 2 incidents of communal violence in Maharashtra. One in Puse Sawali village and another in Satara town. In both instances, the trigger was objectionable social media posts. With Imtiaz Mujawar in Satara, Bureau Report, India Today.
Okay, we started the show by telling you the possibility of the women's reservation bill being cleared by the cabinet, and that's exactly what's happened now, confirming Union Cabinet has cleared the women's reservation bill. It is now almost certain that this bill will be brought in this special session of Parliament. Remember, the bill in its original form gives 33% reservation to women. There's talk of double seats, that is 33% of the seats could have a male and a woman MP. The exact details of the bill are awaited. Aishwarya Paliwal joins me. Aishwarya, are we clear what the bill contains? Will it be different to the bill that had been earlier moved and passed in the Rajya Sabha?
Well, Rajdeep, we still have to wait and what exactly way this new bill, but from what we understand, 33% is the nod that the cabinet has given, and we will see the exact form of it tomorrow, because tomorrow the first visuals will be of the Prime Minister and then all the other MPs walking from the old building to the new building. But after that, the one thing that will be talked about is this women reservation bill. We are understanding it is 33% that has got the stamp.
It'll be actually tabled tomorrow itself in Parliament.
It looks like it, Rajdeep, at the moment, that there is a high possibility that it could be tabled tomorrow, but it also depends on how much time they have, because tomorrow morning at about 9 a.m. we will see all the people gathering, and there will also be a big photo of all the MPs in the old Parliament building, and then there will be that big movement when Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be walking from the old Parliament building to the new Parliament building. So, from what we understand, till about afternoon, we will see that shift from the old building to the new building. But yes, the stamp that the cabinet has given today is for 33% women reservation.
So that's the big story coming in. The Union Cabinet has cleared the women's reservation bill. The Mahila reservation bill, of which so much has been spoken for so long, could now finally be law in this country. Remember, it has taken more than 25 years, lots of twists and turns, but now it appears that the Modi government is fulfilling another of its manifesto promises. Remember, the opposition will also take some credit. Sonia Gandhi had written to Prime Minister Modi several months ago saying, we are ready to support you on women's reservation bill. K. Kavita, the daughter of KCR, the Telangana Chief Minister, had also written to her. We'll be speaking to her in a moment. She was waiting for this announcement, K. Kavita, before she would speak on it. The fact is, the women's reservation bill, remember, Mr. Modi has had a huge boost from women voters in recent years. This could be another step forward ahead of the big general elections. The big story, 33% reservation now could be a reality, because within Parliament, even the small parties who had objected to it in the past, Rashtriya Janata Dal, Samajwadi Party, these do not have the same clout, and their new generation leaders have also been careful not to oppose it anymore. K. Kavita, the TRS leader who has written to the Prime Minister in recent times, has tried to galvanize support for it. Your first reactions, ma'am, to what we are hearing, that the cabinet has cleared women's reservation bill?
Rajdeep ji, first of all, if they really have cleared it, congratulations to all of us, in fact. It is going to help our country strengthen the democracy further. But this government should have announced it properly, and should treat this entire bill with a lot of dignity and respect. The breakings on the TV, the hype since morning, it's all a speculation. But the government should really take everybody, all the parties, all the civil society leaders, everybody into consensus. Everybody should be, knowing and understanding what is happening. Why this suspense thriller? I don't understand.
Ma'am, they're saying they're saying this, you mean to say the manner in which we still don't know why was it not placed on the agenda earlier?
We must be congratulating each other right now, and tomorrow morning there might be nothing because there is no official communication yet. I believe everybody is waiting for a cabinet briefing to happen, which did not. And so there should be something officially communicated about...
Ma'am, but the question will be, there is all parties have to walk the talk. You have taken up this issue, but your own party, has announced candidates for the Telangana election. 114 out of the 119 candidates announced. Very few women. So will political parties actually walk the talk, whether it's the BRS, your party in Telangana, or any other party?
Passed a resolution in the Assembly, not now, 10 years back. And again, our Honorable Chief Minister and leader had written to the Honorable Prime Minister just a couple of days back. We've reiterated our commitment towards the issue. We will support in whichever manner the bill is going to come up. But, the way this is being treated, the suspense maintained, unofficial leaks being given, this modus operandi is a little troubling because ultimately we don't want to lose out any rights to the women. All the women's rights, all sections of women's rights should be protected. So there has to be some meaningful discussion, debate. When they introduce the bill, at least they should give more time. I'm just worried because maybe they'll introduce it and they'll take up some or the other bahana and not do it. That is a major worry.
So you're saying your fingers are crossed, your toes are crossed. You're saying you hope that the women's reservation bill will come up in Parliament tomorrow and be cleared. There won't be a last-minute hitch. We'll wait and see. K. Kavita, we'll get you on the show if it's all passed. You're one of many women politicians who's been arguing for this for a while now. Let's see if the politicians walk the talk. And what exactly will be the contents of the bill? How will this 33% reservation work out? Will it actually happen for the next Lok Sabha election that are just 8 months away, or is this for the future? Either way, that's the big story that's coming on. That's why the News Today brings you stories, puts news above the noise. And the big news is our news break is confirmed. Women's reservation bill has been cleared by the cabinet. Thanks for watching. You stay well. Stay safe. Good night. Shubh Ratri. Jai Hind. And should I say, Jai Mahila. Bye for now.
Weather forecast now. Delhi, maximum 34 and minimum 25 degrees. Mumbai, maximum 30 and minimum 25 degrees. Kolkata, maximum 32 and minimum 26 degrees. Bangalore, maximum 28 and minimum 20 degrees. Chennai, maximum 33 and minimum 25 degrees. Hyderabad, maximum 31 and minimum 22 degrees.
Powered by Volkswagen. Co-powered by PolicyBazaar.com. हर family होगी insured.
Pak-Afghan border tensions escalate. Taliban pushback against the Pakistan army. Taliban to establish 100 military posts, pushing the Pakistan army back. TTP fighters take over villages inside Pakistan. The Durand line, Pak-Afghan border on fire. That's our top focus on India First.
When the United States left Afghanistan and Pakistan-backed Taliban took over, the then Director General of Pakistan's ISI, and you're looking at those images of Lieutenant General Faiz Hamid, he rushed to the Serena Hotel in Kabul and Pakistan was celebrating. In fact, then Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan, he had claimed that Taliban had broken the shackles of slavery. Today, the ground reality is that the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan have killed more than 1,500 Pakistani citizens and soldiers. More than 500 Pakistanis have been killed in 2023 alone in the past 9 months, including 220 Pakistan Army soldiers. And these killings haven't just taken place along the AFPAC border. So has Pakistan's worst nightmare along the Durand line actually just begun? I'm Gaurav Sawant. We will get to the latest on this big story, but first, as always, the headlines. Cabinet clears the Women's Reservation Bill. Legislation likely to be tabled in the special session of Parliament soon. After an emotional farewell to the old Parliament special session to shift to the new Sansad tomorrow, move comes on the very auspicious Ganesh Chaturthi. Encounter enters day 6 in Anantnag, Jammu and Kashmir. Security forces are now carrying out a DNA test of the terrorist whose charred body was recovered from the valley. The encounter is now on its last legs, mopping up operations on. The killing of 2 security forces officers in less than 72 hours has jolted the strife-torn Manipur. Governor orders a probe into the killing. Chief Minister Biren Singh assures security to the families of the victims. Trouble in the BJP-AIA-DMK alliance in Tamil Nadu. AIA-DMK leader Jayakumar declares there is no tie-up with the BJP, blames the BJP TN chief Annamalai for the discord. The Army of the Islamic Emirates of Afghanistan is setting up 100 military posts to counter the Pakistan army, even as the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan fighters have mounted multiple operations in Chitral in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province, taking over some villages and evicting the Pakistan army from its Chitral headquarters. Reports from Pakistan indicate that it's a near warlike situation along the AFPAC border, and according to some journalists on ground, there is no direct communication anymore between the Taliban commanders and the Pakistan army. The apprehension in Pakistan is that the Durand line is about to go up in flames. Do remember that as far as Afghanistan is concerned, it does not recognize or accept the Durand line. I'll get you much more on this big story, but first, this report.
One of the worst setbacks for Pakistan Army in decades. Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan fighters, armed with the latest weapons, have taken over multiple villages inside the Chitral region of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province in Pakistan. Hundreds of Taliban fighters armed to the teeth attacked multiple villages and Pakistan Army posts, taking over villages and evicting the Pakistan Army. Initially, Pakistan Army and the caretaker government in Islamabad tried to keep these disturbing developments for Pakistan under wraps, but later conceded there had been a series of attacks claiming 4 soldiers had been killed in action, killing at least 12 Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan fighters.
जब से अफगानिस्तान में तालिबान की हुकूमत आई है तो ऐसा लग रहा है कि इस वक्त सबसे वो ताल्लुकात लोवेस्ट लेवल पे इस वक्त जा चुके हैं। इस्लामाबाद और काबुल के दरमियान कोई डायरेक्ट कांटेक्ट नहीं है, कोई राब्ता नहीं है और एक जंग वाली सिचुएशन है।
To make matters worse for Pakistan, the government of the Islamic Emirates of Afghanistan has decided to set up 100 military checkposts to protect its borders, something that has upset the Pakistan Army.
जो अफगान बॉर्डर का एरिया जो 2600 किलोमीटर लंबी लाइन है जिसको ड्यूरंड लाइन कहते हैं अफगानिस्तान में लोग, यहाँ पे लोग उसको नहीं मानते, वो बॉर्डर कहते हैं उसको। एक भी किलोमीटर उसका ऐसा नहीं है जो पीसफुल हो। पिछले कई दिनों से तुर्खम बॉर्डर पे फायरिंग जारी है, रिपोर्टिंग नहीं की जा रही थी। उसकी वजह क्या है कि अफगानिस्तान की जो फौज है उसने एक नई पोस्ट का वहाँ पर जो है वो बनाना शुरू कर दी। कंस्ट्रक्शन वहाँ पर अलाउड नहीं है unless you get the consensus of the other force.
Afghans see these developments as regaining territory lost to the British Empire. The Taliban, like most Afghans, do not acknowledge the Durand line. In fact, several commentators insist Pashtun territory extends all the way to Peshawar. Taliban have repeatedly torn down portions of the fence erected along the Durand line by the Pakistan Army. The TTP has also stepped up attacks inside Pakistan's northwestern and southwestern regions bordering Afghanistan ever since that fragile truce between the Pakistan Army and the TTP broke down in end 2022.
We are travelers. We are not on any side. We are stuck due to this conflict. We are in trouble. We don't have drinking water or food. We demand from both governments that they should resolve this issue, as on both sides one nation, Pakhtun, lives.
So bad was the situation that the Pakistan government had to shut down the Torkham border crossing. Pakistan is desperately trying to reach out to the Taliban, but trouble along the 2,640 kilometer long Durand line is only set to escalate. Bureau Report, India Today.
So the Durand line on fire is Pakistan's worst nightmare. The Afghans do not either accept or respect the Durand line. There is also a viral video of Taliban tearing down the fence that was put up by the Pakistan Army along multiple points along this 2,640 kilometer long Durand line. But what does this current round of Afghanistan-Pakistan tension indicate? Joining me on India First is Tilak Deveshar, one of the finest voices on the subject, a member of the National Security Advisory Board, a former top official with the Research and Analysis Wing. He's authored several books on Pakistan. Mr. Deveshar, as always, a privilege to have you on the show, sir. What do you make of TTP attacking villages and military posts in Chitral and taking over several villages in Pakistan, removing the Pakistan Army? The Pakistan Army appears to be retreating. What does this indicate, sir?
First of all, Gaurav, thank you so much for having me on your show. And it's nice to be talking about a subject that I'm deeply interested in. You see, since August 2021, when the Taliban retook Kabul, the TTP has been on the upswing for several reasons. You know, many of the prisoners which were released by the Taliban, including top leaders. They have got ideological support as well as, they have now a sanctuary inside Afghanistan. So the TTP has rejuvenated it and reorganized itself, and now is in a position to really hit back at Pakistan. One of the Pakistani think tanks recently published a report that there has been an 80% increase in the levels of violence in these 6 months as compared to the previous 6 months. And not only that, the TTPs has been attacking in KPK and in the form of FATA, also in northern Balochistan, which is a Pashtun area. They have set up branches even in the Baloch area, Kalat and Makran, in Gilgit-Baltistan, and also they've set up two provinces or wilayas in Punjab, North Punjab and South Punjab. So the TTP is expanding its footprint all over Pakistan. The latest attacks in Chitral was something that took Pakistan by surprise, because this area has been pretty peaceful, but it abuts very critical areas in Afghanistan, Kunar, Nuristan, Badakhshan, and where the TTP found it easy to ingress into and attack this place. Now, the interesting thing about this is also that they could have been joined by local Taliban fighters who seem to be quite bored of peace. You see, they've been trained to fight.
Yes.
And because there has been peace in Afghanistan, they are now manning checkposts or in the police service. But they would rather go out and fight jihad, So they may have also joined the TTP. That's why you find the severity of these attacks going up, and Pakistan is faced with a tough situation.
It indeed is, but these images that we are seeing every day, quite in stark in contrast with Lieutenant General Faiz Hamid sipping coffee at the Serena Hotel in Kabul when Taliban took over. And you'd recall, sir, Imran Khan making those tall claims about shackles of slavery being overthrown. So why this major disconnect between, and I want our producers to show those images of General Faiz Hamid sipping coffee at Serena Hotel and the images of today, sir.
Yeah. So, the reason is that the Taliban have never, in fact, no Afghan government after 1949 has accepted the Durand line as being the border between Pakistan and Afghanistan. And there's a long background to it. I won't go into it right now. But that's the fact. So even Taliban 1.0 in the 90s, on 3 occasions, refused to accept the international status of the Durand line. And here also now, they don't accept it. In fact, Taliban now who are in government, they said, this is a line that divides brothers. It's an unresolved issue. We do not accept it. So the basic trouble starts from that. And Pakistan is very keen to get the Taliban to accept the international validity of the Durand line so that, they can take care of this area. But the Taliban refused to do so. And while they are indebted to Pakistan for having supported them for 20 years, they are an independent power and an independent sovereign country. They are not going to be pushed over. They haven't been pushed over by the British or by the Soviets or by the United States. They're not going to be pushed around by Pakistan. And they made it very clear to Pakistan that, look, this is an unresolved issue. We need to resolve it. And we cannot allow you to fence this anymore. Whatever fencing has been done has been done. We will not allow you to fence this anymore. And with the TTP, they have very deep links. Because when the US attacked Afghanistan in 2001, the Taliban took shelter and sanctuary in the erstwhile FATA, where the tribesmen who gave them shelter and fought with them are today organized under the TTP. So as per the norms of the Pashtun Wali, the TTP, the Taliban today, because the TTP requires shelter, will provide them shelter and sanctuary and will not take any action against them. So they told Pakistan that we can facilitate talks, but you talk to them, it is your problem. You and your ulama sort out this issue, don't involve us in this. But we cannot take action against the TTP.
Is this Pakistan's worst nightmare? The AFPAC border in flames, the Pashtun movement coming up, and if the AFPAC border, 2,640 odd kilometers in flames, what would this mean for Pakistan, sir?
It is a very serious situation for Pakistan. You see, because on the one hand, the Taliban have not accepted the Durand line as an international border. So they are directly challenging Pakistan's territorial integrity and sovereignty. The TTP on this side of the Durand line want the Pakistan army to move their military camps out of the area. They want the demerger of FATA with KPK, and they want to have their own system of governance and Sharia in these areas. So now, if the two were to link up in a stronger manner, and Pakistan does not handle this issue imaginatively, there is a potential Pashtun pincer on both sides of the Durand line, which can rejuvenate the old idea of a larger Pashtun entity called Pashtunistan over a period of time. I'm not saying it's going to happen tomorrow, but over a period of time. So Pakistan needs to handle this very, very imaginatively. And yes, this will be Pakistan's worst nightmare because the Pashtuns are a critical mass of population. They are in a
Go on, sir. A critical mass of population that Pakistan has subjugated. And if we were to talk about this greater Pashtunistan, don't they claim territory all the way up to Peshawar? Peshawar was their capital illegally in Pakistani control, as the Afghans put it, and several Pashtun leaders in exile have said so, even in conversations with us. But I want to understand, sir, this would mean that the Pakistani Punjabi Muslims would then be fighting in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province. Would this also extend to Balochistan? Because I believe there is a link-up that's happening even in Balochistan.
Yeah. First about Peshawar. Peshawar was the winter capital of the Amirs, when they were strong enough. And in fact, their territories, they claimed territories up to Attak, not only Peshawar, but beyond. It was in the 1820s that Maharana Rajdeep Singh, when he crossed the Indus, he took control of Peshawar and right up to Khyber Pass, the famous General Hari Singh Nalwa.
Yes.
And so British inherited it from the Sikhs and passed it on to Pakistan in 1947. No Afghan government has accepted the loss of Peshawar and these territories. So that is one issue. So they claim that. On the Baloch side, yes, the TTP seems to have had some sort of a tactical alliance with some Baloch groups. You see, the Baloch ideology and fighting is totally different than the Taliban. They are fighting for a separate country because of their political and historical grievances. The Taliban are a religious force who want to establish a religious their version of Sharia. So there is no real common meeting ground, but tactically, because the enemy of both is the Pakistan army, so there is some cooperation. And as I mentioned earlier, the TTP has set up a province or a wilaya in Kalat and Makran.
Yes.
So for the first time, they are now cooperating with some Baloch groups to target the Pakistan army. So this is actually a huge crisis for the Pakistan army, not only in the Pashtun areas, but even the Baloch area. The Baloch will get strengthened with the alliance with the TTP and the Pashtuns, because you see, the problem with the Baloch is that they have 44% of the land area of Pakistan, but they're only about 4% of the population. So they're not a critical mass. Whereas the Pashtuns are a critical mass and a well-defined territory of their own. And let's not forget that both sides of the border are the Pashtuns, speaking a common language, have a small culture, historical memories, and a code, Pashtunwali.
Yes. And in this scenario, sir, given the situation, so Pakistan Army had carried out this Operation Zarb-e-Azb, where they used their heavy artillery, they brought in gunships and attack helicopters and used all sorts of weapons of war in Operation Zarb-e-Azb. They claimed the last of terrorists had been neutralized. It clearly indicates today, when TTP are back in Chitral, when TTP are making inroads, and as you have very rightly pointed out, that they are in Makran and in Kalat in Balochistan, and they're setting up offices in north and south of Punjab province and in Gilgit. Pakistan Army has trouble virtually on every front, virtually on every border, sir.
Yeah. You see, Zarb-e-Azb was effective. It did manage to decimate the TTP. The attacks blew down, their finances sort of dried up, and a lot of them sought shelter in Afghanistan. But after the Taliban victory in Kabul in 2021, instead of Taliban looking after Pakistan's security interests, what they have done is they have heightened the interest because of their kinship with the TTP. So the TTP has been reborn. And whereas earlier they could barely carry out any attack, in August, there were about 99 attacks carried out by the TTP, the largest since 2014, the largest number since 2014. So they have been rejuvenated. And yes, they have spread out all over now. And so for Pakistan Army, it's an extremely difficult situation. And also, let's not forget, the Pakistan Army today is involved in running the caretaker government. In fact, one of the headlines of a recent newspaper article was, Pak Army Chief to lead the fight for economic revival. And I thought to myself, if you're leading the fight for economic revival, who's going to lead the fight against the TTP? I mean, the economic revival is not really the army's part, but the army chief seems to be paying much more attention to those kind of issues rather than what is his bread and butter, which is the security situation. So the security has really deteriorated.
Which is the point I was coming to. If the security situation is deteriorating day in and day out, their economy is in tailspin, politics in tailspin, given Imran Khan currently in Attak jail and the problems that he may pose to the establishment. What do you see happen in Pakistan in the months ahead, sir? I mean, you've written so extensively, you've studied Pakistan so well.
You see, I unfortunately do not see any leader who has the vision or the capability or the understanding to tackle these multifarious crises that are hitting Pakistan today. You see, we've always known since its creation that Pakistan has been in a crisis, one form or the other, and somehow or the other they managed to pull through. The US has bailed them out thrice in the past. China has come in with this, and the Saudis and the UAE. But this time the crisis is such multifarious and so big, and there's lack of vision and leadership in Pakistan, and they all seem to be politicking and jockeying for economic crumbs.
Okay.
And the army chief is concerned about the special facilitation investment council. All these kind of things are getting diverted. They're not focusing or not being able to focus, or perhaps they've lost the capability to focus on serious military issues.
And we'll be talking about this in greater detail in the days and weeks ahead, because this will have serious ramifications for this entire region. What does this also mean for that for the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative and the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor? All of that and much more in the days ahead. For joining me here on India Today, Mr. Tilak Deveshar, as always, many thanks, sir.
Thank you for having me, Gaurav.
I now want to shift focus to the other big story, and that's the counter-terror operation that was on in Anantnag in Jammu and Kashmir. We are just being told that that operation is almost over. Mopping up operations also done. Some terrorists have been neutralized. More details we'll be getting on the story. But a short while back, I spoke to Lieutenant General KJS Dhillon, former Kashmir Corps commander, and he directly hit out at Pakistan for sponsoring terror in Kashmir. Listen in.
See, it's a truth which is known widely world over, and you can close your eyes to it. That's a separate issue. The government of India in the past has sent so many dossiers, and the terrorists getting killed on the line of control, Pakistani nationals getting killed inside Kashmir or Jammu and Kashmir and other parts of India, including the Mumbai terror attack. So Pakistan is the hub of terrorism. Pakistan is sponsoring terrorism. Pakistan is sending Pakistani nationals into Indian Kashmir to spread terror, to kill innocent Kashmiris. This is what Pakistan is all about, and there is no doubt in anyone's mind. The whole world leadership knows about it. It is just that it's a matter of time, and Pakistan is called out by everyone.
618 terrorists have been neutralized in Jammu and Kashmir, mainly in the Kashmir Valley, after action was taken on Article 370 in 2019, 5th of August 2019. Perhaps in the next 24 hours, we'll add 3 or 4 more to that list. That is all I have for you on India First this evening. Coming up next is Abha Bakaya with Business Today.
राजेंद्र बाबू से लेकर डॉक्टर कलाम, रामनाथ कोविंद और अभी द्रौपदी मुर्मू जी, इन सब के संबोधन का लाभ हमारे सदनों को मिला है, उनका मार्गदर्शन मिला है। आदरणीय अध्यक्ष जी, पंडित नेहरू जी, शास्त्री जी, वहां से लेकर के अटल जी, मनमोहन सिंह जी तक एक बहुत बड़ी श्रृंखला जिसने इस सदन का नेतृत्व किया है और सदन के माध्यम से देश को दिशा दी है, देश को नए रंग रूप में ढालने के लिए उन्होंने परिश्रम किया है, पुरुषार्थ किया है। आज उन सबका गौरवगान करने का भी अवसर है। आदरणीय अध्यक्ष जी, सरदार वल्लभ भाई पटेल, लोहिया जी, चंद्रशेखर जी, आडवाणी जी, न जाने अनगिनत नाम, जिन्होंने हमारे इस सदन को समृद्ध करने में, चर्चाओं को समृद्ध करने के लिए, देश के सामान्य से सामान्य व्यक्ति की आवाज को ताकत देने का काम इस सदन में किया है।
The first ever special session of Parliament was convened on 14th and 15th August to mark India's independence.
At the stroke of the midnight hour, when the world sleeps, India will awake to life and freedom.
The next one happened in November 1962. India was at war with China. The winter session of Parliament in 1962 was advanced and a special session was convened on November 8. Question hour was suspended after an agreement between the ruling and opposition parties, with the session closing the very next day on 9th November. 10 years later, the next special session was called on 15th August to mark the silver jubilee of India's independence. 20 more years later, the next special session of Parliament would be convened in the 90s. A midnight session was called on 9th August 1992 to celebrate the 50th year anniversary of the Quit India movement.
I would, at the outset, like to extend my greetings to my fellow citizens, the men and women and the youth and the children of India. The Golden Jubilee celebrations are drawing to a close, but the spirit of August 15 and the ideals and the aspirations symbolized by it remain to be pursued with dedication and with renewed vigor.
5 years later, on 15th August 1997, a midnight session was convened to mark 50 years of India's independence. Within 10 days of this session, another special session was convened for 5 days to focus on the path to development after 50 years of independence from 26th August to 1st September.
This time, the struggle should be for freedom from our own internal contradictions, between our prosperity and poverty, between the plenty of our resource endowments and the scarcity of their prudent management, between our culture of peace and tolerance and our current conduct, sliding towards violence, intolerance, and discrimination.
In the new millennium, Parliament's special session was held between November 26th and 27th of 2015 to pay tribute to the father of Indian Constitution, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, on his 125th birth anniversary. A midnight session without any debate was called on 30th June 2017 to roll out GST across the country.
May I request the Honorable Rashtrapati Ji and the Prime Minister and other dignitaries to come up and press the button and officially launch the GST.
Fundamentally, we all are different from each other, and I think we just need to keep reminding ourselves that we are all so different, and that is what's so beautiful.
Fashion label Human recently dropped a hard-hitting campaign on inclusivity led by Pranav Kirti. The fashion-forward label celebrated 8 billion humans and how they're all very different than each other.
This is just another step towards all the things that we've done in the last 10 years journey, which is to bring people's attention to that diverse fabric of our society. Your choices are so different from mine. Whether they are right or wrong is beyond my it might just be beyond my understanding. But to accept that is I think humanly possible, which is what we try to showcase.
The capsule collection caught our attention as it honors the strength of an individual within a collective. It celebrated varied tastes and brought to the fore the notion of likening 8 billion humans on Earth to 8 billion distinct and unique flavors. Inclusivity is the order of the day and not just a woke sentiment. The campaign brings about a discussion on important societal issues.
Whatever we've done as a company or whatever I've done as a creative director, is the entire credit goes to the community that surrounds us. From all the artists that we feed on, present in our own community. Even from whether it's the body issue or the LGBTQ issue, I am literally reflecting on what they are, taking those conversations forward and leading. The brand is just a reflection of that.
It also shows the label's commitment and transition into creating statement pieces with an elevated approach. In New Delhi, JP Nadda for India Today.
Hello and welcome. You're with us here on Business Today. I'm Abha Bakaya. Here are the day's top stories. A very special conversation with Shankar Sharma in our Market Masters segment, telling Business Today TV he continues to believe the Indian markets will keep rising, warns that FOMO could be the biggest enemy of investors. Sensex finally snaps its 11-day winning streak, dragged down by selling in heavyweights like Reliance, HDFC Bank and Infosys. Investors hedge their bets ahead of rate decisions by the US Fed, Bank of England and Bank of Japan all this week. Huge jump in direct tax collections this fiscal. Revenues up 23.5% to 8.6